Good morning.
Monday.
I'm feeling a little less like spicy than I normally do on a Monday, so
Really?
kind of subdued a little bit. So good morning, everybody. Welcome, Youngstown's Talk Channel. Joe Kelin. Phones are open. We're gonna talk about cool things. Dude, I went down rabbit holes like you would not believe this weekend, and it was glorious.
Oh,
And,
yeah?
I loved it. Yeah.
Interesting.
First strike. What do you got?
I did something really scary yesterday. Like, you ever been so nervous you physically shake and people can see you shaking? That was me yesterday. And it's not exciting, and you're not going to think it's cool, but it was cool for me.
Okay.
So my husband and I recently joined the worship team at our church, and he plays the drums and I sing. And when I say I sing, I mean I blend in. I don't stand out. I don't lead. There's a couple of singers and I blend in with them, and everyone says, I can't hear you. And I say, that's how I want it. That's where I'm comfortable. Well, because we were sort of short-staffed yesterday and there was a lot of songs and they needed help, I said, I'll try to lead one if you want. And they're like, will you? And I was like, okay. And I led a song, AKA I sang by myself. It was like 2 or 3 lines. It was not the whole song. I just started it off and I did it. And I was like, I was so scared. I reached my other hand up to try to steady it. And everybody said I did a good job. And I said, are you guys just being nice? They're like, no, it was good. And I said, but could you see me shaking? And they're like, yeah, we could. You totally could.
Can you belt out some notes for us?
No, absolutely not.
I know, like when you drive around in your car, you're constantly singing.
Oh God, yeah, that's like a full show in my car.
Like, I think our audience needs to have a sample of what you're capable of.
No,
we're not going to judge you.
Yesterday, that was the first time in my life I stood in front of a crowd and sang alone, like without just blending in. And it was very small, not a lot of people there. So I was like, all right, we'll just dip a toe into this. And I was like, 150,000% not doing it in front of the internet. I'm not even, I'm warmed up, had a sore throat for like a week. The acoustics in here are not good. The Step Brothers.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
And this is an acknowledgement that I've never made publicly, but I will make it now just so those of people in my past know that there was an inauthenticity in my history.
There was an inauthenticity in your history.
Yes.
Okay.
So those of you who like just grabbed on to that moment, it was fake. Did you play in band, by the way?
No, I was in choir.
Okay.
And yeah, I never did an instrument.
All right. So I picked up the saxophone and I played saxophone in school for a little while.
Oh, maybe my daughter's doing that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Saxophonist, right?
Yeah.
And so I was second seat. But here's what happened.
Oh no.
During concerts, I just went through the motions. You
weren't actually playing.
I hit the keys. I never blew one time through that saxophone.
Why?
What do you mean?
Like you thought it was going to be bad?
No, I just didn't. I felt like everybody was carrying the section well enough. I didn't need to add to it. So I just kind of hit the keys and never blew through the saxophone. It was a fake.
Why?
I don't know. But not one time during any public performance of concert did I blow through the saxophone.
Did you practice at home?
Yes. I wasn't bad. Like I wasn't bad.
Well, then why would you not?
I don't know.
Like I could see me saying, I'm not going to sing because I'm afraid of what it's going to sound like and I'm not confident in my abilities.
You ever play a saxophone?
No.
All right.
I watched my daughter do it.
Every once in a while, you would blow through the reed and it would squeal on you.
Yes.
If you were just like a middle school kid. Right?
Hear that in our house.
Yes.
Yep.
And so I didn't want to be that guy. And the other people were doing a fantastic job. Like my addition didn't add to it. It could only detract from it. So I never played in a concert. It was fake.
You need this video I got served over the weekend.
Yeah.
You know, my little algorithm, they serve you shorts and reels. And what was so interesting is before yesterday, I got served this video on Facebook. It must have been Friday or Saturday. And it was a woman who I think she's either like a worship leader or a singing coach, teacher, something or other. And she had said, do not attach your identity with whatever comes out of your mouth. And they said, and it's the same with instruments. They said, your voice is your instrument. And what happens? Sometimes it squeaks. Sometimes it cracks. Sometimes it makes a weird noise. We all make weird noises all the time. It always happens. All that is you happen to make a weird noise. That's not who you are. It is not your identity, depending on how the voice or instrument sounds. And I went, that's a good way to look at it. Because my fear has been it's going to sound bad and everyone will judge me and I'll be known as the girl that can't sing, that's standing up there who shouldn't be up there. And that'll be my whole identity. And you probably thought the same thing. It's going to squeak. It's going to sound bad.
I had nothing, no value
look
to
some
add.
Kind of way.
Like I felt like if we were at a 7, I knew that I was a 6 player and all I could do was bring the average down. So as long as they were doing a good job, we were good. Now, if my whole section decided to do the same thing, that would be bad for the overall product. But they were playing real, and I was not, and it was great.
You can't do that in choir because in choir, if everyone's like, "I'm just gonna mouth the words and not actually," that's gonna be real obvious.
Be a terrible concept.
Yep, that's when your choir teacher's like, "Come on, I can't hear you," and you're like, "Oh, watermelon." Water. If you don't know the words to a song, you just lip. Melon water.
And it looks like you're singing?
Supposedly. I've not actually tried it, but that's what I've heard.
Well, anyway, we've thoroughly been outed now publicly that we contributed to inauthentic.
I will actually do what's supposed to be done, but you apparently just...
I do not. Not unless I can add to it.
So no solos for you, huh?
Oh, I did singing solos, but no saxophone.
Really?
Oh, I was
You felt more comfortable singing than playing an instrument?
Heck yeah, I was amazing.
Really?
I was
amazing. Are you kidding?
No.
You're joking.
No,
I cannot in my entire brain imagine you getting up in front of people and singing.
So, okay. At 17, I lost my hearing. And before 17, I actually could hear myself. Now, if I sing, I'm kind of tone deaf and it's not great product. But before that, I was amazing.
Really?
I was great vocalist.
Well, you should coach me.
No,
give me tips, but I'm not going to sing in front of you.
No. Wait, how could I train you if you're not going to run in front of me?
Listen, I'm going to have to make it work.
Son of a bitch. All right, over the weekend, some dude on the south side got slain in a field, and it took him a couple days to find the body because it started stinking.
What?
City of Youngstown. People dying again. People being murdered and shot and whatever.
Yeah.
And the city we live. People, when I was a kid growing up, it was the tail end of the mafia days and there was a lot of drugs in the area. There was a lot of gang violence in the area. So every weekend there was somebody that died and whatever. And, the sort of the popular attitude towards it is stay out of Youngstown. They're going to kill each other off. They're going to end their own problems. And eventually, after they're all dead, then all of us can enjoy the city of Youngstown. And I think the attitude of the governance of Youngstown really does not pay homage to how much violence is within its city.
When I was living down south, if I was talking to someone that was familiar with Ohio or anywhere in this area, and if they would say, "Where are you from?" I'd say, "Oh, Youngstown, Ohio." They'd say, "Oh, dang.
Did you get murdered yesterday?"
She's from Youngstown. Yeah. They're like, "Oh, the ghetto." And I said, "Well, actually, a suburb of Youngstown, but I say Youngstown because it's the city." And people who aren't even here know, "Oh, better watch out, Youngstown."
So engineer in me, I want to say, let's just say I was the mayor of the city and I wanted to dry up the gang violence. What would I even do? What is the answer? Because the city administration, when they make moves, it has nothing to do with curbing the violence. It goes after businesses. I don't know if you saw, they're going to hold bars accountable. Did you see that story?
No. What?
So downtown, we have restaurants and bars,
Uh-huh.
right? It's a university town, so that there's nightlife. There really is people frequenting the bars. And they're putting restrictions on sort of the post bar crowd and holding accountable the businesses that contribute to the alcohol and the sort of like the after hours type of stuff that's happening outside the bar, people puking in the streets, people fighting on whatever. And in my mind, like prioritization happens naturally with me. All right. So that's why I have, like, if you live in the city of Camel, for instance, like I take big exception when I get a speeding ticket in Camel. It had a murder rate that was super high, and where are the cops at? They're sitting on a street corner tagging people for violations, traffic. Yeah. And I'm like, what the frick is wrong with you? Right? Put those cops making sure that the gangbangers aren't shooting each other and keeping bodies in fields somewhere. Right. And that's why I take exception to, like, if you've got problems that are priority 1 and you're putting all of your emphasis on priority 4, like, that is a misuse of government infrastructure.
Yeah. I'd be like, of course I'm speeding through.
Do we have a call that I...
This is outgoing call.
Call in queue. All right, let's bring somebody in. They want to say something. Hello, Tucker. Are you there with us, caller?
Cuzzo, Sogs.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, I just wanted to bring up a point, what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, they did a press conference on curbing the violence and doing a curfew in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up putting a voicemail out to the chief, Carl Davis, and Guy Burney, who runs Serve. And since I'm retired now, and we know where I worked at for many decades in the prison system, I offered to talk to any of the youngsters about not going to prison. And once again, that was probably 3 weeks ago that I made that call. Actually, a couple calls to each of those agencies, and never got even a call back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of it's cosmetic. And I'm familiar with it. You're familiar with that population and the prison system. And if they were really genuinely serious and they got a guy that's willing to speak to the young kids for free, and they know me, Carl Davis knows me, Guy Burney knows me, not well, but well enough. You think that they jump on something like that?
Heck yeah.
As an opportunity to let these young people know, hey, prison is not the place to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of lost a little bit of, hope, I guess, in true intentions of what they're trying to accomplish. And I just wanted to make that point to you. And I know you see those people in passing, and I think it's all a big Band-Aid, 1 hour at a time.
Yeah, so, for sure. But for them to pass on that, for you to be willing to do that, to meet with kids, to talk them out of the life that leads to prison, like that, I think that's a huge value.
3 weeks ago, nobody made not even one call back. I'm not going to call them again. They know they could find me if they want to find me. Wasn't trying to get paid. Wasn't trying to make any money. Doing any public speaking. Was genuinely just concerned about, utilizing a resource. I mean, I'm retired now, so I have more freedom of movement. I can go places and do some things. And I'm not trying to be anti-chief. I'm not trying to be anti-Guy Burney. I'm simply saying the message got put out there numerous times. What are their really true intentions? Why didn't they call me back?
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Hoax. Appreciate it. That's an important point. Like, he and I have very similar experiences with the city that we live, where I've offered my services to help them in a way, not asking for anything in return, just making my city better. And we're not even called back. Right.
Yeah.
And so what is the purpose of city governance if the people in your community have expertise in what you're trying to accomplish, that you don't even freaking call them back?
Yeah. See, I knew a woman down south. She was not part of the city, just a woman trying to start a nonprofit, something for kids to do every day after school or daycare or whatever it was, or during the summer, like find activities, find things for them to do. What can they get involved with during the day that is not trouble. And she would have people come in, local business owners, different professionals. She called us up one time. I was working for a chiropractor at the time, and she would ask people, can you come and just talk to the kids? Talk about what you do, how you got there, what schooling was involved, what experience was involved. And she's like, the point is show these kids there is hope. There are things you can do. Just because you grew up in a certain area or a certain way, you can come out of that. You can get educated. You can work hard. You can become one of these. You could become this. And she's like, just give these kids hope and something to focus on and work towards that is not gangbanging or stealing or being out late or, And I'm like, I thought that was such a good idea. Difficult, I'm sure. But do the kids in this area have things to do and like those influences to talk to? And because clearly they're not calling you guys back.
So this reinforces my stereotype for all government and politicians. There's three elements to it.
Oh gosh.
And if you don't appeal to one of those three elements, it's dead in the water. You don't get a call back. So number one is personal prosperity. How can they further themselves in the prosperity department? Number two, how can they accumulate power over other people? And number three, how can they be elected again? If they can't answer one of those three questions, then what you're asking them. So if Joe comes and says, hey, you're doing a lot of great public works, let's do some marketing for you. They go down their checklist. How's this going to get me elected? Oh, it's not going to get me elected. Joe, the mayor's working with Joe, who's not going to give them any kind of, electability. He's going to be working with, corporate America. He's going to be working with business. Like, that's not going to help people vote for me. How's it going to give me more power? Is Joe willing to give me some kind of situational advantage in the power department? That's a no. How can I make money off of this? So if you decide that you give them a Cadillac Escalade, right? You give them a position where they can make calls somewhere in a department they didn't have before, and where they add 1,000 new voters, that gets something done. That gets a call back. But if you can't hit those three check boxes, you are not getting a call back.
They don't think doing something for the community and having marketing showing that things are getting done is electability. Is people they don't think voters are going to see all they do
I
and
don't know
say,
if you know this, politicians are not smart people, right?
Yeah.
It's a sure thing or it's nothing, right? And so,
wow.
That's the one thing, like when I look at a politician, I have hope that somehow you can give them that wisdom and say, you know what, let's take all of the normal political priorities and shelve them and just be a good person. Just look out for your community. Do non-status quo things, and you're going to get some pushback when you do something different, or just be a regular politician and accumulate power, accumulate wealth. That's a hard sell, right? Because you put yourself out there and you make calls that what if it goes sideways? So you can take and say everything that Youngstown has done goes sideways, and there's hell to pay for it. But they stuck to status quo and they got elected 4 times, right? So there's no downside to it. You mean I still get to drive around my Escalade? I still get to accumulate power, and I still get elected, right? So why would I? There's no incentive. But if you have good people in the community who want the best for the community, I was willing to give up time and energy and resources to help my community, and you don't even get a freaking callback. That is evidence that that's not the priority.
Yeah. Yeah, because I could see them saying, like you said, if it's not a sure thing, it's why would I go out of my way to do something when maybe it'll inspire some voters, or I can be a part of this venture that involves money and I know I'll have those voters because
one day I hope to be part of a community that just casts that off to the side. And it's just a bunch of people who are noble for their community and say, screw it, I don't care if it's unpopular. I'm going to work for the people. I'm going to work for the freedoms. I'm going to work for the prosperity of all people, even if I have to give something up for other people. One day. I've never lived in a community like that. I think Struthers is probably the closest community that, the mayor's willing to take one on the chin for the sake of her constituents. But very few. So in the 80s and 90s, when Youngstown was a cesspool of murder and drugs and gangs, well, what I have done as the engineer, I would just be honest about the data I was collecting, even if the data put me in complete contrast, complete peril with the people who would be voting for me. So as a politician, would you do the right thing, even if it meant you lost votes? Would you do it?
I'd like to think so.
Right. What if it put it at odds with your constituents? What if it was better for your constituents, but they really weren't going to like what you would hear, what they would hear?
Kind of like be almost like the parent, like, you're not going to like this, but it's good for you. I got to do it.
100%. So what does Youngstown need? Right. It needs, number one, it needs businesses given an advantage, because if you have businesses, you have jobs. If you have jobs, you have tax base. If you have tax base, you have less criminals out there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, corruption. Okay. In all its forms, all the way from the top down. And I see nothing but corruption. My entire life with Youngstown has been nothing but corrupted experiences. Nothing. So I've dealt with a lot of different families in Youngstown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a taxpayer and a citizen of the community, you want everybody to be playing up a noble, straight up game, right? You want people to be selling products and services. What if you found out that there was a special deal offered to somebody that wasn't offered to everyone else? Would that be corruption? And if you were a beneficiary of that corruption, you would love it because it's great.
Yeah.
But if it was not applied to you, right, it would feel like an unfair game.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a business in Youngstown, right, and I'm suffering because of your decisions, and I'm feeling like, holy shit, like this city doesn't look out for me at all. Like, in fact, they care about the taxes I pay to the city, but that's it. Like, I'm just a pawn in their money game. How would you feel about doing business in Youngstown when there was probably 50 other communities that would welcome you arms open? It would be easier prospect. They would cater to you because of what you were willing to do for the community. And your city is like every time they get a chance, they punch you in the nuts.
I'd be real tempted to go. And I don't understand. I don't understand what they think their end game is. If businesses are closing, no one's spending time there, nothing is happening, and it's becoming more and more run down, how do they think that's going to keep them in office and in a job? If there is no city to oversee, how is that in their mind better?
And it's the service relationship. Like, in business, we understand that if we serve people well, that they want to do business with us, and they have the opportunity at any given time to break up with us. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's what keeps us honest and saying, like, if they break up with us, that's a bad thing. And we don't want that to happen. So you have businesses that are trying to be good for the community. And then you have the community trying to be good to the businesses. It's a two-way reciprocal relationship. But when you are an egotistical mayor that doesn't value the businesses, they think in their mind that if you go away, there's just going to be somebody to replace you. I don't care if you get mad, you leave, screw it. There's tons of people that want to come downtown and set up a business. We're doing you a favor. How dare you think that you need to do us a favor?
Yeah, that's shady.
Yeah. But that's what corruption does. That's what crime does. It skews the relationship between good service-minded public servants and egotistical people who think the community owes them something rather than the other way around. And that's where we find ourselves. But it's better than it was in the past. Like, this is no way near what it was in the 80s and 90s when every government official was corrupted. They were all making big bank based on the deals that they did with the business community. And they turned a blind eye to as much corruption as needed because they were corrupt themselves. And that's the way they made their money. But now I think it's a little bit harder for organized crime to make an influence in government expression, but it's a different kind of corruption. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm mayor and I'm looking just to make bank, like, what am I going to do? I'm going to do as much as corruption as the community will tolerate. And that's where we're at right now. And this is not an accusation that corruption in an organized criminal way is happening. I'm saying there's evidence. There is the symptoms of a relationship between government and what the community looks like that says there's got to be there's preferential treatment. There are people who are given priority and then some are minimized. So if Hogs and I both called and said, we want to help the community. If you're the mayor and you have a citizen that's capable of helping you and you don't even fucking return the phone call, what does that say symptom wise?
Especially when it's free.
Free.
I'm not costing me nothing.
So what phone calls were you taking instead of the person who cares about their community?
Somebody that's making me money.
Somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to bring some stuff to you. Here's what's in it for you. That's the call that you're taking. And that's just...
This is probably a dumb question, but keep in mind, I've only been back in this area for... Okay, it's been 2 years now, so it's a dumb question. But down south, a lot of the mayors in town, well, in the smaller towns, I guess, maybe not the bigger ones, being the mayor was their like side job. They had a full-time job and then they were also a mayor. Is that how it is here? Or I'm assuming it's the mayor is the mayor. That's their only job. They make
$100,000+ a year. They are doing mayor as a full-time gig.
So it's not like they can't say, oh, I'm up to my eyebrows and all this other work. I'm getting back to you. It's just like, this is your only job.
That's it.
And you still won't.
Well, and to me, like when, the first introduction to public service to me is where you had respectable people who were, really good at doing something in community, lended their talents into government. And that was what representative government. But when you create an industry around politicians, there are some people who make decisions about everybody who have never participated in that lot at all. They have no insight. They have no intelligence, right? They're professional politicians. And I think our founders would have taken professional politicians and strung them up and got rid of them because that is not the spirit of representative government. If if I went out and made a 40-year career at being good at something, and then I was like, hey, I feel like doing public service again. Let me bring my skill set into government and let government have a semblance of some kind of intelligence. It's because it's being represented by real world, execution of that intelligence, not someone who's like, I'm 19 years old. I've never done anything, never authored a paycheck, but let me make a bunch of decisions on shit that I've never done before.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like I always just say, because when my husband was active duty military, I would tell him I never understood why there were the two paths of commissioned officers and NCOs. And the commissioned officers who learned everything in a classroom were over the NCOs that were actually out in the field and in the trenches and doing the things. And I said, is that frustrating that your bosses and the people organizing what you're doing have never done it? Shit. And he's like, well, ideally, you get one that realizes that and takes a lot of feedback into consideration and asks us what we think.
If you don't have skin in the game and you've not personally done any of the things you're making decisions on, you're effed because you are going to take a political approach no matter what. And think about the people who are in Congress right now on the national level that have never done the stuff.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of consulting work for politicians. Okay. When something new happens in the technology, they call me up, they ask me what my impressions of. I know that I carry a lot of weight with what I say. And that's concerning to me because the person on the other end of that voting ability, right, is only voting because of what I fed them. Right. And I feel like I've given a nice, unbiased, technical response. And so I think that I did a really good job. And if they vote in that way, they're at least by proxy making a good decision. But think about how many consultants who aren't me that are in that same spot that are skewing that politician to know bad things and do bad things, right, for personal advantage. And I know I am the minority in that consultation agreement for sure.
Oh, yeah. So Dan says, in general, people lack accountability and integrity. This is not a generational thing either. People are greedy and will continue to be greedy. The best path forward is to reward those who show true integrity and take accountability even for their wrongdoings. We need leaders that will admit when a mistake is made.
Abso-freaking-lutely, Dan. And that is true wisdom. And if you just take the last 20 national stories and see if intelligence and integrity is rewarded, or loyalty to party, level of corruption, level of people who are in your corner, which is rewarded. The dumb people, look at TV that's popular right now. Are we celebrating intelligent people, the people that we should? Are we at the altar of insanity?
Yeah. Like the more ridiculous, the more popular.
Yes.
And you see like these groups of politicians that 1 month they're buddy and they're supporting each other and speaking highly of each other. And the moment one or two says, hey, wait a minute, this was cool, but this is not cool. I feel like we're veering off here from our main, mission statement. And I don't like this idea. And how the others will be like, screw them. They're terrible people. They always have been. They're dumb. Okay.
All right. So this is like the normal people versus the actual noble people. If given the opportunity that if somebody came up to you and asked you, hey, Bob Smith. So Bob Smith in your history, Bob Smith, he railroaded you, right? In a bad way. He was not nice to you, whatever. But Bob Smith is freaking awesome. He's super intelligent, super capable, and whatever. But somebody asks you, hey, Kelin, what's your opinion of Bob Smith? All right. Now, I've been in this position a million times. Could I give credit to someone who has wronged me versus I'm petty and I don't want you to like this person who effed me over. So when you ask my opinion, am I going to be Gossip Joe or am I going to be objective, unbiased Data Joe? And I always defer. People who have absolute hatred. I know that if there's a reverse and they ask a question about me, they would freaking throw me under the bus. I still give the objective data. Even though I helped them and they didn't deserve it, it was what I was asked and I tell the truth. That's a hard thing to do for normal people.
Would you say something like, I have a personal bad taste in my mouth,
because I don't want to bias it.
A good job.
What I want is not what I want to happen is not what was asked of me. They're trying to make a decision about data. I give them the data that they're asked for. As much as I want them to choose not, right? Yeah. That's my own preference. And that should not be entered into the conversation.
I knew somebody one time, they owned a business and somebody I previously worked with applied there. And this person and I were no longer coworkers. It had been a little while, but they called me up and they're like, I want to know about so-and-so. And I said, oh yeah, we work together. And he's like, I know. And I said, well, did you call like the old company where we worked? No. Want to know really what you think about this person, not what they would tell me. And I'm just like, okay. and that's what they said is like, I know I'm going to get the PC answer and only, the niceties. And then he's like, I want to know what you thought working alongside them. And I was honest. And I said, good. Not good, but good. The compliment sandwich. Here are some good things. This is what I would say is a red flag that I experienced. I wasn't a fan of. We got to watch out for. But in general, good. And they got hired. But I feel like if somebody were to ask me, what is your opinion? I want to know how you really feel. Then I'm going to kind of sandwich in. Totally objective. These are the facts. This is what you should know is a good thing. And if they're like, well, would you do that? No, I wouldn't. I don't like them. I think they're a jerk. I think they'll throw you under the bus any chance they get. I think that they're going to whatever. But in your situation and what you need them for, then yeah, maybe they could do that. You wouldn't do that?
I wouldn't.
Really?
No.
If they said, I want your honest opinion.
If I'm the best arbiter for that opinion, then I would share it. If I know in most cases, if my personal opinion is not the best arbiter of that deal, because it has to be put through a filter of what are you trying to accomplish here? So somebody said like, I need a code cracker, right? Somebody who's going to be able to take this big formula and be able to crack it within a day, right? And then they say, what's your opinion of this person? Well, the context of what they're going to be doing is code cracking. And if they think they can do it, I'm going to tell them the information that basically says whether or not they can do it in the confines of what you're asking. My opinion in other departments doesn't enter into the utility of what you're asking for. So I'm not going to share things that, even if my personal deal is he's a dick, right? He's going to hurt your feelings. He's not going to, but for that thing, yeah, he's going to be awesome at it.
Yeah, I could see that.
But normal people want to say the thing that irritates them the most, and they want that to be the prime. That's the gossip part of what we feel about other people, which would not enter into my opinion.
But then I guess it's if the thing you want to say does not apply. Like when I do the whole, like I say, compliment sandwich, and I say, this is good, this is not, I include the this is not because I know that's part of the job you're looking for. I know that is an issue.
Could you keep out your personal feelings on something that was not connected?
Oh yeah, this was somebody I liked.
There you go.
I liked the person. I could be friendly. I don't dislike them, but asked me my opinion.
I'm telling you, most people would not be able to. They have these things that they want to say so bad, and it's in their heart, and they just want the other person to know them. And to look through in sort of like a binary, whether or not this is applicable to what you're being asked. You want to say the thing so bad, you can't help it. You vomit that thing all over them, and then they get your skewed, biased version of that rather than what they were just asking. I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying
but how
that
do you
is
know
normal.
It's skewed and biased?
You can't help it. That's what people are.
Have you ever, okay, let's turn it around. Let's say, you're asking someone, hey, I want to know what you think of this person. And they say, they're good at this. Okay, great. And then you invest time, money, energy. Do you ever, and then maybe you see a totally different picture. And do you ever go back and be like, what the hell, man? Like, you didn't tell me this.
Well,
and they're like, well, you didn't ask.
Evil. That's equally as evil. If I shared context about what was important and you didn't tell me something that you could have.
Yeah, like what if they were like, you didn't tell me they're also a giant a-hole and they're immature and they don't take accountability? Would you then be like, well, you didn't ask me those things? Rather than, I could have saved you time and money and told you that
that's kind of your fault. If you're doing an interview and you don't ask the question that's really on your mind, you kind of miss the opportunity.
So it's on the asker
to find out
specifically want to know.
But in normal people, if I just plant a little seed that lets you start talking, you're going to say everything's on your mind, and I'm going to get that anyway. But that's laziness on the asker.
Yeah,
the asker needs to be, confident at what they're asking.
How do you feel about the same person that I knew who would do like hiring and things of that nature? They have a policy where they say if I have an employee and they quit or we go our separate ways or whatever, maybe it didn't work out, it's not a good situation, they're done here. But if somebody calls and gets a reference and says, hey, yeah, so-and-so applied here, just want to call, they will not say anything bad. And if it's bad and there's nothing good to say, they'll simply say, I choose not to respond. How do you think that still speaks volumes? If someone says, hey, I want to know what you think about this person, and they're like, I don't want to say anything.
I don't know. I discount that because that's passive aggressive to me. And
I mean, that's not good.
It might not be.
Yeah,
it might
to
be
me that'd be like, ooh.
You have an axe to grind and you have something, whatever, and you wanted to say something that I won't until I know. Data's important to me. So speculative, like that mystery state, like I don't deal with.
But do you not see it as the same thing? Whether they're like they're a jerk and they're always late and they're blah blah blah, or if they simply say, you know what,
it would be an origin of curiosity. So I would need to find real data. That's not going to be sufficient for me to hold some kind of accountability in that department, but it's going to be a data point that allows me to then ask more questions in that department. So if it's like, do you think that, Bill Smith is a thief? I choose not to answer. Well, you saying you choose not to answer means that there was something about it. So I'm going to put a priority when I talk to Bill Smith to really dig into whether or not you can be trustworthy.
Yeah.
Let's see. We need leaders who are smart and smart only. Dan said smart is a subjective word. Could you explain specifically what we mean by smart? Dan said, your opinion could be a data point of a larger fact-finding investigation. That is perfect. Perfectly said. It's all conditional and requires a path forward based on best judgment. So smart, this is important. Like I really have a hang up with terminology. We've dumbed down terminology. So things mean one thing, like truth doesn't mean anything. Racist doesn't mean anything. Smart doesn't mean anything. So when we say those words, like we assume we know what they mean by them, but we really don't know what they mean by them.
Yeah. Cause it's so interesting. My kids were just asking us over the weekend. They're like, who would you say is the smartest person in the world? And we're like, well, we start naming all these people like, Albert Einstein was known to be smart. Elon Musk is known to be smart. So-and-so is known to be smart. And I did think to myself, like, what constitutes smart?
Okay. So let's look at through different paradigms. Okay. There are some people in our society that think smart means that you've created academic credentials. You got a big heaping list of credentials that you have. That would be smart to some people. It would be predicated. There might have been a time where credentials equal intelligence when they were hard to get. When you make something hard to get easier, then the credentials lose their value. And then I can look, if you came to me and said, I have a doctorate in business, whatever, I would say, yeah, that's about as shitty as you can possibly get. I don't consider you smart because tell me what it takes to get a business degree. 2 years and some Red Bull and you got a business degree. That's not valuable to me.
Turn something in.
But that's what human beings do. We take a hard thing that should be hard, should maintain hard, so that when you do it, I say, holy shit, you did that thing? That was really hard. You must really be smart. But if then we're like, oh, this is unfair that these really dumb people aren't getting these credentials. Let's water it down and make it so that more people get the credential. Then you're like, you're not really smart anymore if you got that credential.
Yeah. I see the credential more as maybe not so much your intelligence level, but maybe your work ethic, maybe.
Not even that.
I think a little bit. Listen,
if
you take someone who is, let's say they're an adult. We're not talking about like a kid out of high school starting college or went on track there. If you take a full-grown middle-aged adult with a family, kids, full-time job, hobbies on the side, and they still manage to write very long papers about a topic. They give speeches about it. They research, they cite things. They're able to hand in information and resuscitate information from a class where they turn in work, they participate, they take the time and energy. To me, that says something.
Participation. It's participation.
They work hard. They participate. They
overcame some obstacles.
To something.
Doesn't mean they're smart.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I wouldn't judge the intelligence of it. I would judge all the other things. Will you commit? Will you work hard?
But if you take data points of what it means, like academics used to be something that was sought after and was really hard to get. And if you make it easier, it applies to more people, it loses its luster.
Yeah.
Right. So if you give everybody, the Nobel Peace Prize, then you're like, But if you give one away every decade, that dude competed against a bunch of other people and he made it, right? Mm-hmm. Then I'm like, that's a big deal. But if you water it down, it means nothing. I know it feels good to give the Peace Prize to everybody, but then how you are smart now in a certain department is definitely diluted.
Especially nowadays when we have like AI, Chat GPT. And, I heard somebody the other day say, oh, I want to send a letter. It was some sort of like professional letter. And they said, well, I'm just going to have Chat GPT write one up and I'll send it. And I'm like, oh God, we're losing our abilities. Like, how do you even know now? I used to judge, and I still do actually. I'll judge people sometimes based off of emails I get. Like, and I'm not talking about if you have a friendly relationship. If you have a casual relationship that you can use slang or casual language in an email, fine. But if it's someone coming from a professional standpoint and they use like terrible grammar in an email, I'm like, nope, nope.
All right, so here's okay. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's like now we don't even know. Like I can't even say, is this person a good candidate to do business with because I don't even know if they wrote it. Maybe ChatGPT wrote it.
Okay, so here's my distinction between dumb, little smart, and then really smart. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm only saying smart as this upper thing. The no and dumb, no. They're not even on
Dumb,
my radar.
average, smart.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You know what garrison is?
A garrison?
A garrison.
I just saw the word yesterday.
Did you really?
In the Bible.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
It only stood out because my daughter has a kid on her soccer team named Garrison. And I went, hey, I've only heard that word as a name, and here it is in the Bible, and I don't remember what it is.
Okay. So here's my example.
Okay.
A smart person is where you take them by the head and pluck them up and you put them in a foreign environment and they win no matter what, whether or not it's
They're
survival
able to
win,
adapt and assimilate.
100%.
Okay.
So they have the wisdom and the sort of like mental infrastructure to be able to formulate prosperity and surviving and all of that stuff, regardless of where they're garrisoned. So if you take an accountant, for instance, right, and you give them the academics of accounting and you put them in a walled place that worships them and you give them 9 things that they can practice over and over again, and they get really good at accounting. But you pick that person up and they get eaten by the polar bear, or they can't survive 2 seconds outside of their wheelhouse, right? They're not smart to me. Smart is adaptability and being able to live and prosper. So if you
put a timeline on that?
What?
How quickly they adapt?
Not at all. If you are adaptable and you can figure it out before you die, of course.
Yeah.
But you can take, like, let's just say 10 of your people you know, and you take them on an island and you put them there and you say, go. And you put any kind of trial in front of them. Which ones do you know that would do really well no matter what you put in front of them? And which ones you know they would totally die unless you give them accounting and put together a spreadsheet? That's what I consider to be smart. So we'll pick someone like you mentioned, like Elon Musk. Okay, do you think that if you took all of the things that he's doing really well out and put anything in front of Elon Musk and said, you really can't leverage anything that you have in this world over here. Here's an island. Here's the new thing. Do you think that he would figure it out because he has the capacity to be adaptable in departments that aren't in his specialty but are outside of it?
Probably.
He'd live. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know who I'd want to be in the apocalypse based on how I know that their brains work and how they're able to take new information and be, not insist that, dude, my specialty is, doing XYZ. And if you don't put me in XYZ, then I'm useless. You're a dumb person as far as I'm concerned. You might be a highly specialized academic that really knows XYZ really well, but you're unusable outside of that, that capacity. And the information outside the capacity is useless to the rest of us.
See, I've wondered then where I would stand on that scale. Because I feel like I could eventually, but that's why I said, do you count on time? Could I eventually get on it?
I've known you for 2 years and I've put you in situations that are outside of your wheelhouse and you have really done well in all those departments. You are highly adaptable, and
Thanks.
I think you would be on my smart island.
I made it.
Yeah, I do.
I made the cut.
But there's a personality type that, has insecurities outside of their specialty, and they put so much of their investment into being good at one thing, and they're useless outside of there. Like I could take a football player, right? Mm-hmm. And I could dominate them in 99 different things. And they can dominate me in probably 5, maybe. And so who's smarter? The person who can dominate outside or the dominate inside?
It is interesting because I can remember years ago running into someone I knew from high school that was one of the smart kids. Very well with grades, always winning academic rewards at the end of the year. Obviously this kid's going to go to college and great things. They're smart. And they were not doing anything.
Right. Those are academics. We've taken intelligence.
In fact, they didn't even make it through college.
Intelligence and academics, and we've mushed them together.
Yeah.
Right? And we actually gave priority to over specialization. And I think that's where we went really, really wrong, because if you're a specialized, politician and are good at getting elected, that does not mean you are good at anything other than, feeding your ego, feeding your prosperity and getting elected. And that's all you're good for. Go try to make a payroll, right?
Yeah.
Go try to market to the populace. Go try to do anything outside that specialty, and you are just fodder. You are no good to the rest of the the tribe that's sitting on the island, and we'll eat you. Like when it comes down to it, I don't want to eat anybody. I don't want to go to cannibalism, but I'm eating the politician first.
So you must love it when you see these studies and these statistics on the news that'll say, based off of this study, a certain percentage of educated people vote for this person.
Yeah.
All the educated ones feel this way about this issue. And I'm like, what? And they're insinuating smart people do this, so you should do it. And I'm like, you're telling me because they're a dumb college kid that barely makes it out of bed and goes to class, but they're enrolled, they're educated. And
so do you think there would be a priority on IQ rather than academic papers on your wall?
Yeah. I should say though, I don't really know how you measure IQ other than, isn't it just another test?
Well, it's a test, but it sort of like leverages your ability to process information, not memorization. Where I can remember the, accounting code, the tax code, right? And I could memorize every point. But if you took another similar data point in a different department, you'd be useless because you're a memorizer. So I don't consider memorizers intelligent at all. Like I think memorization is super easy, but processing foreign information is difficult because you got to create your own analogs. You got to create your own formulations and create similarities between different subsets, right? And still make it make sense on the other side of the subset.
And we had talked last week too about the idea of, automatically assuming kids in school have an issue because they're not getting something. And that was me with math. And my parents would even say, oh, you're just trying to memorize the steps.
Yes,
and if you forget, you can't do it. And that's exactly what I was doing. And I have learned the older I got that I have to understand why I'm doing something, how it's connected to the next step. Then I'm like, I don't have to memorize it. I know the goal. I know what I'm trying to do. Here's what I need to do, rather than, oh crap, it's this button. And then what button? What was the next button?
Exactly.
Well, if you know what you're doing and you know the concept of what will do what, then you just know what needs to be done. And then you know what button you need. And so to me, I think in school, teachers are like, here's a math equation. These are the steps. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Go. And you just regurgitate that. And if you're like me, like, what? Why? Like, but where'd you get that number? And it's just do this. Just do this.
And that's, I'm a math person, but I was only a math person after I graduated high school because the memorization of, do the formula versus why do you do the formula were two different things.
Yes.
Like, what are we calculating? What's the practical use of this knowledge? And if I knew why I was doing something, I will blow it out of the water. And that's why an IQ test should make some of these academics and be embarrassed about what they register on the IQ test. People who never even went to high school could register super high on the IQ test because it's not about memorization.
Yeah, I remember I would have a math tutor and we would be working. Here's the steps. Keep doing the steps. Keep doing them. I would do them again. Okay, do it again. I would do it again. Do it again. I do it again. You got this. You know what you're doing. You got this. Go into class the next day. Here's your test. And I would tell people, I'm like, it's as though I've never seen this before in my life. I don't know how to do this. And they're like, Kelly, you just did it like 20 times last night. How is this not look? Because they changed it. It looks different. And now I don't know how to do the steps.
Exactly.
Rather than here's the main concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think you would score on the IQ test?
I don't know.
All right. So a lot of these dummies are in the like 90 and below. Like 75 is really, you don't even have a brain kind of thing. Over 100, it's respectable. In the 120s, it's highly respectable. 140 is like, that's the person I want on the island. I don't know what the score goes up to. I've seen 180. I think I've seen 200.
Dang.
So anywhere between 80, you're really, really not adaptable as far as the IQ test. I don't know historically, like have we taken the IQ test and found out that it was pretty mean, and so made it easier to have a higher score? I don't know.
Yeah.
Could you pay $100 and get 3 points? I have no idea. So I don't even know how respectable the IQ test is. I only kind of know the people that I think I'm on par with, where they scored, and I've never taken one, by the way.
Me either.
No.
I was gonna say, depending on the questions, my biggest fear is I'm an overthinker, and I will read the question, think I know, and go, oh wait, but did they mean this? Do they mean this?
That's the academic. Those are the kind of quandaries that you have in academic testing, where it's not just what's the answer, but I'm going to put some answers in there that have some trickery in it that get you to doubt yourself and get you to overthink things. And now you're not even thinking about what is the right answer, but why are the other answers there? And should I be contemplating those answers? That's the stupidness of academic approach, is that it inflicts doubt on smart people.
Ah, yeah, because I'm
they
always
do that
like,
on purpose.
I don't know, it could be this, but it could be this.
Exactly.
It depends on what you mean.
Yeah, but if an IQ test does what it's supposed to do, it draws out critical thinking skills and using logic more than it is memorization. And if it's logic and it's no memorization, and you just want to put me on a path to be able to find the best answer based on information giving, I know I'd nail it. I'd be in I'm guessing I'm about a 145 is what I'm guessing.
You should try to take an IQ
I will.
test.
I'll do it.
And we'll just tell ourselves we're smart, even if the test says we're not.
If I do poorly, right, I'll be highly critical of the testing formulation.
Yes.
If I do well, I'll be like, it's perfect. But
like I'm a genius.
I'm sort of like the anchor of the test. If I do well, then it's a good test. I have a feeling it's a bad test.
You take it, and if you think it's good,
okay. What would make for a bad test? Like, how many soldiers did the Union Army having going into the Battle of 1792? Yeah. Right? You're gonna be like, how was that?
I didn't memorize that fact. Yeah.
Right. But if you were traveling on the road going 60 miles an hour, how many miles could you cover in an hour and 15 minutes? Like, there's enough information and logic to just see how your brain assembles data to figure out what the answer is. That's a good test. I
am so wired to panic. When you ask that, part of my brain goes, I could figure that out. And the other half goes, ah!
What if you get the wrong answer? You're going to be judged harshly.
Oh my God, it's math.
You're going on stupid island with a bunch of politicians. Oh, shit.
I panic.
Let's see. Dan says it's all conditional and requires a path forward based on best judgment. That is true. Smart is about having all the answers. Smart is defined by being able to adapt and utilize resources effectively. I agree, just like the story about Einstein's drive. Joe says, the first time I was promoted to Kodak, I had to take an IQ and personality test in Chicago with a psychiatrist.
Wow.
It was a full day. I did well and got promoted. Joe, would I be on your smart island? Joe would definitely be on my smart island.
That's what Elon Musk does, isn't it? He gives IQ tests when he's hiring.
I would do it.
I feel like I heard that somewhere, that he does something like that. Have you ever taken the Mensa test? That sounds familiar.
Mensa. I don't know. I've taken DISC tests. I've never taken the Mensa test. I don't think I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
Patricia,
tell us.
Yeah, give us a little.
So
info.
I want to give you a topic here. Let's talk about this, because I did this weekend and it was kind of cool.
Ooh.
All right. So what is being called a comet right now, that is 24 light minutes away from the Earth, and it is headed straight for us. It's due to be within our local solar system December 19th of 2025. Okay. Some people have postulated that it is a foreign drone or alien encounter that's on our way.
Is this the thing I saw that people say it's a hostile alien?
It could be a hostile alien. We don't know. It could be anything, but it is a body that is heading our way, and it'll be here in December. Right. So I told everybody to get their affairs in order, because if it's bad aliens or if it is an actual comet and it strikes us, we could all die. Right. So here's the question for Kelin, and I asked ChatGPT or asked Grok this morning. Okay, so the Earth is going to be destroyed December 19th. It's going to go bye-bye, right?
Wait a minute. We're hypothetically thinking this? Okay.
Don't be afraid.
Okay.
This is Joe's hypothetical fever dream.
Okay.
It's coming to Earth. Earth is going to be, well, not destroyed, but life is going to become compromised for living on its surface. And so the government now, all governments decide, hey, we built these bunkers over the last couple generations and we can save 59,000 people, right? We can take you to the bunker. Now, how does your government choose who goes to the bunker and who just gets like a very inspiring statement how you're going to survive up here?
Oh my God.
59,000 people only you can take. You're in control. Now, first, who should be in control of deciding who goes to Bunkerville and who doesn't? Who
smart people?
Smart people, right?
Yeah.
So we have to elect politicians because politicians are going to take people that.
That's why I was like, oh God, if it's the government in charge, it's just them and their buddies.
Okay. How about AI? AI deciding?
Maybe I still feel like AI can be biased. So depends on how that's done.
Okay. Well, listen, your survival, right, is dependent on who you put in charge to see who gets to go to the bunker. Now, if you're in charge for picking the arbiter of who gets to go there, are you not going to set the rules so that you're included? What if you set the rules and you just don't have enough specializations for the furthering of the human species? And now you have to decide whether or not you are here to fend for yourself. You're not a good arbiter, are you?
No.
Who do you want to be the arbiter then?
Well, and I just thought of another, it popped in my head. I thought of another thing that is important. I feel like people need health exams because if you just start picking people to repopulate the earth and they can't reproduce, you're screwed.
Reproduction is going to be a high priority on a evolving or an emerging, reconstituting the human race.
Because you need smart people, but you need people who are physically capable as well.
Okay, so can we agree that 0 dumb people need to be in the bunker? 0 dumb people.
Yeah.
No dumb people.
Preferably.
No diseased people.
Yeah.
Okay. No elderly or sick. 0 elderly or sick. You're not being mean.
I feel like a jerk.
No. If your only priority is repopulating the earth after the devastation. So I had a friend of the family who was taking their driver's permit test, right? And I said, here are the real important questions. And I quizzed him on things that he should be thinking about. And if you're on a road and you lose your brakes and you have lane 1 and lane 2, lane 1 has a 40-year-old, right, mother, and God. Lane 2 has an 80-year-old cancer patient.
Oh God.
Which one do you decide to hit at full force? So if you're going to pick, somebody's got to die.
Yeah.
And is it going to be the mom or the grandma? Which are you picking?
Oh, gotta be the grandma.
Are you mean because of it? No, but you have to, again, the prerequisites are that somebody's got to die. So there is not a choice where nobody dies. You have to be able to prioritize who you get to let live. So if you're the arbiter of the end of humanity on the surface, somebody's going to die. Like, you do not have the option to save everyone. You can only save 59,000. So you have to be very particular about not only who you extend this to, like, would the president of the United States, Donald Trump, be on your list?
I don't know. He's not young. He's not in great health. Don't know if he's smart and adaptable. I was going to say we may want a couple older people for any insight of the past when discussing how we're going to move forward. Like, wouldn't you want someone that was like, hey, but we did that one time, whatever years ago, and it didn't work, and here's why. And someone might say, oh, that's good insight. We weren't around then. We wouldn't have known
Okay,
that.
so let me compare this. So you and I agree that Donald Trump the emerging leader out of this, we would never pick Donald Trump as being the best that all of pop. You get to pick from anybody. He would not be the person that we pick. So Donald Trump is dead as far as I'm concerned. And I'm Secret Service. This is not a threat.
This is hypothetical.
Hypothetical. Donald Trump is not the leader that we would pick to emerge.
Yeah.
And example, do you think that in the real world, if we were bunkering people, that we would invite Donald Trump to the bunker?
Oh, the real world.
The real world, he's there.
They would.
The intelligent, smart world, he would not be there. Right. So I want to create that distinction. Right. Because the arbiters that are going to do this are going to be different than you and I, who could include ourselves if we think we would add value to it, but we could definitely exclude ourselves if we were thinking about the human race in its totality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Just to be fair, we're more fair than what will actually happen. So that should be concerned.
Yeah, like I don't know if I should be included in it. If I think about it,
I would definitely be included.
You could be included.
Totally included.
Am I overly intelligent? No.
But if
aging.
if I said, do you want your kids included in it? Your first strike would be, I want to see them survive. But I would say, do you think they would have anything to contribute in the 59,000? Now you'd have to separate what your biases are and say, no, my kid, not that bright, probably wouldn't contribute. They're young, they hit that checkbox, but they don't have any skills at this point where they would be useful in that future, sort of post-bunker world.
There's potential,
but are there people better that are older that do have specializations that you don't want to take a spot for your kid? You'd be sentencing your kid to death, right? With you, right? Putting someone ahead of them that could contribute better to the survival of the species. That's harsh,
yes.
Right. So you almost have zero people that you would trust to be arbiter outside of you, right? Because they're all going to put their family as super important to the species. So let's ask Grok. Who should be the priority?
I am Grok.
I am. What's her name? Nina? What was our Grok girl?
Wasn't it like Annie? And then sometimes it was Anna. I don't know. It was like Anna.
In a hypothetical scenario of apocalypse, we could choose 59,000 people to go to a bunker. What would you set as the standard to pick who goes to the bunker and who has to experience the apocalypse?
Is this the same girl?
It's not going to. I'm going to read.
Okay.
The core objectives is first what we have to adhere to. Sustainability. Ensure the group can maintain the bunker, food production, medical care, engineering, and repopulation afterwards. Diversity. Genetic, cultural, and intellectual variety to prevent inbreeding and cultural stagnation and groupthink. Equity. Minimize bias based on wealth, nationality, or privilege. Prioritize global representation. Viability. Select healthy, adaptable individuals who can contribute without excessive resource strain. Ethics. Favorable, cooperative, nonviolent people who reduce internal threats in confined spaces. All right. So the categories. This is how they would populate it. 40% or 23,600 spots. Essential skilled professionals, people with critical expertise for survival, including STEM fields, engineering, science, agronomists, IT specialists, medical professionals, doctors, nurses, geneticists, tradespeople, farmers, mechanics, and builders, educators and social scientists, teachers, psychologists, and historians. And 30%, 17,700 spots would be diverse general population to ensure genetic cultural breadth. Healthy adults 18 to 45 from underrepresented groups. So freaking liberal. Underrepresented groups.
Underrepresented groups.
Globally selected via stratified sampling. Proportional world populations by region, ethnicity, and gender. Exclude those with severe chronic illness or criminal histories involving violence. Include a mix of fertile individuals for repopulation with emphasis on families or pairs to stabilize social dynamics. And 8,800 spots for youth and future generations, kids and young adults, healthy with potential. There's your kid.
Potential.
Students in key fields of growing aptitude via testing, including guardians if needed, but prioritize orphans or those from stable backgrounds to avoid family separation trauma. This group ensures knowledge transfer and demographic balance. And the final 5,900 spots, specialists in culture, arts, and innovation. Dude. On month 1 through 8, if I am trying to figure out how to feed the populace and I have some arts major that is working on painting and sculpting things, right? and their potential down the road, I think that of a group of 59,000 people, you're going to have specialization first, but also some, sort of artistic expressions. I'm going to accidentally get the artistic expression. I am not putting anybody on that island that can sing but can't do anything else well for the sake of preserving cultural expression, right? I'm not doing that. So those 5,900 spots, I am not going to creativity people at all.
I'm done. I can't go. I'm not in any of that. I'm not in any of that.
Okay, so these are the ones that will be excluded. Health risks, any with terminal illnesses or severe disabilities, behavioral red flags, histories of violence, extremism, or antisocial behavior, age extremes, excluding anyone over 60, overrepresentation, cap selections from single country, profession, or demographic to prevent imbalances, and safeguards. Use an algorithm to score applicants based on the criteria that human oversight or appeals, global outreach for announcements to encourage application, transparency, public disclose the process to build trust, ethical consideration. This isn't perfect. It's a trolley problem for steroids. I'd incorporate input from ethicists to refine it, ensuring no discrimination based on irrelevant factors like wealth or fame. Once in the bunker, mandatory cross-training to make everyone versatile. In the end, the standard aims for a microcosm of humanity that's equipped not to just survive, but to thrive afterwards. It's utilitarian with Human Torch, but let's be real, any selection process as an apocalypse would spark debates and heartbreaks. If we're imagining this, I'd hope the world where we prevent the apocalypse altogether through better choices today. That's it. Okay, only 3 things I disagree with. Okay. Number 1, including creativity and the arts in survival, right? Those are freaking luxuries that can be reproduced given the 59,000 people who can strum on a guitar, even not well, because I'm telling you, our standards for what we see as expression of the arts goes way down when the apocalypse. It's not even a high priority.
So you think, because I'm trying to think, it's like, okay, well, devil's advocate, what could be an important use? And the only thing I can think of is like, oh, well, this is going to be a stressful thing, and maybe they can help with the mental health of the group and de-stressing and but you're saying people can kind of do that.
So the guy that's germinating the crops to make sure we can eat, right?
Yeah,
he has a vibe in him that can play the bongo
maybe he
drums.
Can do it too. Yeah,
and we will be okay with that expression. But the 5,900 people that are sitting on the side saying, "Let me know when it's my time, coach." Right? I'm making some model in clay right now, and I'm painting a new painting. We're all going to be like, "You freaking get your ass in the field and pick some shit and water some shit, or you're going to be dead, and we're going to eat your corpse.
Let me know when you want me to do my sound therapy with my bowls."
Yeah. So okay.
No offense to people who do sound therapy.
No, some people do. No, much offense to those people who do sound therapy. It is for a culture that's evolved in advance. You don't play as big a role as you absolutely think. It's only through probably white women who are liberal, who think very highly of themselves and don't really have the adaptability to keep their emotions in check. And so we want to count those people who need sound therapy out of the equation because they are at a huge disadvantage for survival and adaptability. If all they're going to do is when things get hard, they cry near a palm tree, right? And can't be disturbed until they've found their chi. Right?
Yeah.
We need hardcore people who are like, oh, that's a danger. I'm going to kick its ass. Those are the people we need. So that's number 1 is the cultural people are done as far as I'm concerned. I'm adding 5,900 more specializations into the mix. Number culturally diverse. Is that important? Do we really need to sample cultures that struggle? Like if you have an aged person, the reason we're discounting aged people is because they can't survive outside of their bubble, right? They need good temperatures and really
specific conditions.
Right. So if cultures are so delicate that they can't survive outside their tribe in the middle of the Amazon jungle, right? If they were put in any kind of, whatever,
Yeah.
Would they give an advantage? Do I want a bunch of people running around that are living primitive lives in a primitive apocalypse? I would almost give the advantage to the primitive cultures over the safe space, super delicate, I don't have air conditioning, so I'm going to cry people. Right? So I would sway it. I don't need a sampling of delicate people. I would say the advantage is if you are a survivalist, right? You are good at not dying, like you're given the advantage. And I don't care what color, stripe, gender, whatever you are. I don't care about that. I'm not going to do it as a token gesture for keeping a would-be,
just to have it because you got to have it.
Well, and I'm sure certain people think it's important to preserve the culture so that when we rebound, but if it evolved to a certain point, naturally, it will evolve again.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not going to be a priority in the beginning. The first couple of years, we don't give a two shits about the cultural heritage of anyone.
It may even, wouldn't it even be a deterrent if you've got these different cultures and beliefs and now they can't work together because, well, we should do this, but we can't do that because our culture says that's wrong.
That'll go right out the window.
Yeah.
So those will not.
You would have to either assimilate.
There was no value in that at that point. And we think it will, like we hold it in high regard right now. But when it comes down to bouncing back from apocalypse, we are not going to have money, right? Money.
Yeah.
Give me $100 bill and post a lot apocalyptic. And I'm going to say, no, you know what's important to me? Sustenance.
Yeah.
Right? Give me a spear over $1 bill any day because that makes me stay alive one more day.
I was going to say, do we have to have animals in this thing?
Yes.
Because if the animals are all dead, what are we eating?
Right.
We have to bring other things.
Agriculture is going to be more important than what music you liked or what movies or what literature you had.
Yeah. There's no room for your easel and paint. We need animals and seeds.
But will we then, after 2 years, after we've got agriculture nailed and we're coming back, if we will say, man, I really wish we'd have preserved the works of, whatever. And maybe, but on the onset, that's not going to be the priority.
No, because really, if you think about it, through history, I feel like there were artistic types that were sort of crazy, like they had lost their mind. So really,
we'll have our crazy.
Yeah, in this extreme situation, we're bound to stress someone out enough that they lose their mind and they become the next.
Right. We will create the next artistic oppression.
Yeah. So we'll just make them.
On that island, creative expression is devalued. Equity is devalued. Cultural expressions are devalued, and it is about survival and propagation. Now, inbreeding would be an important deal. So the people who study this will say what it's going to take if you have to have quick turnaround generational propagation.
Yeah.
What is going to be the healthiest for genetics' sake to be able to do? What do you want to include? Like if you were to say, okay, well, I'm a small ethnic minority somewhere, and I know I'm going to be unrepresented in the repopulation of the earth. Is it important that we have that ethnic representation? Or if we're okay with that ethnicity completely disappearing. So I can't even cite one. I don't know what populations are super small that would disappear through that. But I don't think that would be it'd be an afterthought. If we survive, it would be nice to have those. So maybe some genetic vials that if we needed to clone up and maybe some eggs and some sperm from a ethnicity, we don't need the people of that ethnicity, but we need the genetic representation. That might be a deal.
Ooh, that's a good point. We could bring, if we can't bring all these people, we can at least bring their DNA to help with the inbreeding.
Put it in a cooler, and then we can do some implantation, bring some people who are in that specialty, and then you might die, and everybody like you might die, but in the future, we might bring you about again, like Jurassic Park.
Yeah. And then you could be someone in this new world that's like, my parents they didn't come. I'm from an ancestry of the people who got destroyed, and I came here in a test tube.
Patricia said Mensa International is the largest and oldest high IQ society in the world. It's a nonprofit organization open to people who score in the 98th percentile or higher on standardized, supervised IQ or other approved intelligence tests. Thank you, Patricia. Appreciate it. Isn't this what insurance companies determine? Absolutely. They actuaries are super good at putting people down on a spreadsheet and considering their liability and their ability to add net value to things. And so, yeah, actuaries would be very important in figuring out cost benefit analysis on people, traits, ethnicity, specializations. And that's who I think should be in charge. Mathematically formulating people, taking the person out of it and just base it on what gives us the largest advantage. And AI would be really good. And I F with AI this weekend a lot.
I believe that.
And because in order to use it as a tool in the future, you have to know what its limitations are, its blind spots are. And so this was a cool deal. I'm going to describe it. I'm not going to be able to articulate it well. See if you can draw it out of me for more appreciation for it, because I appreciate it very well. So if there's three things that you give as a premise to AI that takes almost all of the bullshit out of its responses. Number one, logical argumentation is number one. Scientific observation is number two, and mathematical representation is number three. Take ideology and you take politics out, you take consensus out, you take all of the other fabrics that sort of take untruths and keep them sort of like elevated. You take it out of the wheelhouse of what AI will even look at. And I took two things that had, they were compliant to logical mathematical sequences, but really didn't do well in sort of like the cultural or consensus environments.
How do you take it out? Do you just literally tell them to?
You say, I want an answer, but I only want it to have representation of logical, mathematical, and observable sciences. And then everything else is excluded.
Okay.
So for instance, like one of I did environmentalism, number one, and it failed miserably. And I did intelligent design. Those were my two favorite because the exercise. So here's what you would ask it. And again, I'm going to do a bad job of butchering this because this was 45 minutes of me trying, and I'm going to summarize it in about 1 minute. Okay. So if you took on a point-by-point basis the evolution of a species, how things evolve over time, how you can take things that have a biology representation and creating new biologies, how long would that take? So you ask ChatGPT or Grok, how old is the Earth, right? And it's going to say 4.5 billion years old, right?
Okay.
And then you take genetic mutations and to be able to take biology and represent new strands of DNA forward-looking. Take the mathematical representation and figure out how long that would take. And it was like 6 to the 100th power, right? Trillions of years old. And so if evolution needed to take trillions of years to get to the point we are right now, and if the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, right, there's a discrepancy between how long it really would mathematically take and how long we're suggesting that it takes over here in the mathematical observable sciences and logic state. And then you can ask it the same question by using scientific consensus. And scientific consensus would say, yes, it had plenty of time for biology to evolve and DNA to take its different forms and for non-biological material to become biological material. So those two arguments are saying not mathematically possible, but consensus say it's mathematically possible. And you contrast those two things and you can find out, is intelligent design? And why doesn't ChatGPT or Grok think so when you can consider consensus as part of the argument?
So something else had to have happened.
Something else. Don't know what it is. Don't know who the intelligent designer is. But mathematically, intelligent designer is more probable than genetic mutations or evolution would have time for it to take it.
How sure are they on the 4.5 billion years old?
That's a good question. So consensus would say that's what consensus alludes to, right?
Yeah.
But what if it's trillions of years old?
Yeah.
Now you have a different contradiction, which means that in the scientific community, there's more contradiction, right? Things that, okay, so let's just say you're a scientist and you're like, oh, okay, I guess genetic mutation is going to take longer than 4.5. Can we update that Earth age thing in some way so we can make it form fit? And you're like, wait a minute. You're the one who said 4.5 billion years. Now you want to change it so that your other theories have
just
a chance
to make something else work out.
Exactly. And that's how the dark matter argument really conflicts with me. You know, dark matter?
I've heard of dark matter.
Okay. So dark matter is sort of a phenomenon about if science is able to measure how much matter needs to exist in the universe. And if there's more matter than should be able to exist, then we create a thing called dark matter that is basically the reason for why what we thought matter should equal to isn't equal to. So this must be there's some matter out there that we can't see or can't detect or can't measure. So it's almost like, oh, we were kind of wrong, and maybe our formulas were wrong somehow.
We create our own variable.
Yes, and we call it dark matter, and you can't test it, you can't measure it, you can't see it.
I made it up because I didn't have an explanation.
Yes.
So I created my own variable. I called it dark matter, and I say that's
it's matter that human beings are really bad at this estimation thing and guessing thing. We were wrong, but it's got to be that the universe is wrong for producing matter that we can't see, rather than us being wrong, then our formula was wrong. And this is, and again, science people, I know I'm being extremely flippant and simplifying a complex idea, but in the end, the contradiction of how much of this is you being wrong about your formulation and how much of it that the universe just isn't giving you what you want so that you can put it through your formula.
Yeah. Like people, and I talk about this kind of thing all the time with someone I know who's an atheist. And we talk about the idea of like, well, I believe in science. And other people say, well, I have faith. And it's like, well, how can you believe in something you can't see? You don't know. Like, that doesn't make sense according to science. And it's like, but what's science? Like, are things provable? Sure. Is everything? Meh. Then you make up your own variable and somebody says, oh, we had data at one point that said this, but then we found other data and now we don't believe that. So that's okay. But to think that there's something we don't know and I believe in something I can't yet measure, that's cockamamie. But the fact that you know data has been changed, that's not. And it's almost like, I say arrogance, but I don't even mean arrogance. Closed-mindedness, maybe, to say, no, I believe in science. This is fact. When you know it changes, meaning your ability to measure it changes or the information you receive changes, and you know that things can be varied there. Again, that's not weird, but it's weird to believe I think there's something even though I cannot yet measure it.
Well, it's best summarized in science is today's best guess based on what you know, what you've observed, what you've measured, today's best guess. But science has become the religion of the left, right? And today's best guess is the truth. And when you form a consensus against truth, it feels like it's more concrete or solid than it really is. If you create science that is malleable, changeable, and you know that you're making the best guess based on today's information, that's something I trust in because you're okay with moving your goalposts all, wherever you need to. So if bloodletting is not a cool thing, like in the day, bloodletting was cutting edge, right? It was the best we knew at the time. And we look back on it, we judge it like, what were you thinking? But based on the time, it was great. By today's standards, it's not. So even how, carbon-14 dating and, are you allowed to challenge whether or not we might not have everything right on carbon-14? You understand the science of carbon-14?
Not really.
All right. Problem I have with carbon-14 dating is that we assume certain standards or certain benchmarks stayed the same all throughout a history. So, for instance, the experience of time, right? Do you think within the last 100 years, if you go back to someone who are 100 years old, that they experience time in the same way that you do right now?
Probably not.
Okay. 100 years is probably okay, right?
I mean, what do you mean by experience? Like,
well,
they would feel differently than I do.
I see your point. So like if I go from New York to LA right now, it cost me 4.5 hours. In the 1900s, if you went to New York, LA, you're on a train and it costs you about 2 days, 3 days, right?
Yeah.
So the experience of time would be different. But I'm saying in a practical sense, the experience of time, what a lifetime equals, what an hour equals, what a week looked like. Like the experience of time is pretty relative.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back 200 years, the further you go back, the experience of time, you are less sure was the same as you're experiencing it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're expecting all things to stay the same.
Yeah.
And how do you know that everything outside of you relative to you has not changed? Okay. So if you were to say, hey, do you think the cosmos has sped up or slowed down or stayed the same? Which do you think is more likely?
Sped up.
Okay. Do you think the expansion of the universe has expanded, stayed the same, or contracted?
Expanded?
Expanded. Okay. So pretty much everything on the outside of you and your experiences has changed over the last 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million, all the way to 4.5 billion years. So if I'm talking to so carbon-14 is basically when we look at an element that the electrons that are in carbon-14 erode electrons at a super consistent rate today, right? So you can count them and how stable that element is and how regular the electron, parsing is happening over a period of time. So if you go back and you take an element that existed 1 billion years ago, you're comparing how many electrons have been parsed off of that and being able to estimate how old that thing is, right? If time and space has remained relatively stable since the observation, and science would have to then go back 4 billion years ago in a time machine, and it would have to look at carbon-14 and find out if it was stable at the time of observation there, which is impossible. So it's a theoretical science that basically makes estimations for if things all stayed the same over time and space 4 billion years ago, how old something would be. That's why my conflict isn't with the science. It's actually pretty good theory for estimation's sake, but you can't say, I know it is, unless you can prove to me that space and time hasn't changed over the course of that 4 billion years, which is unprovable.
Here's a far more juvenile way of looking at it too. Back, I don't even know, hundreds of years ago, back before we had things like clocks and things of that nature, I'm sure people could tell about what time of day it was with the sun, with daylight.
If it stayed the same.
Right. Which we know throughout the year, it changes a little bit. Days are longer, days are shorter. Would you ever take someone that is telling time based off of the position of the sun and say, hey, what time is it? And expect them to ever say, it's 5:03, it's 5:05. Or would they say, it's about this, it's about that? So when we then start to look at time in exact minutes, seconds, whatever, could that not then skew how we're measuring time over time? And now to you, 5 o'clock is not the same as 5 o'clock to me.
Let me ask you this question. So I'm going to ask you what time is it? Okay. And I'm going to go back in history and tell me when you start to question whether or not what they're saying is accurate. If you go back 50 years and said, hey, what time is it? And they said something, you would picture them looking at a mechanical clock of some kind. And what they say, what would you give the accuracy rating to them giving it to you?
Pretty accurate.
Okay. So today's atomic clocks and technologically inspired coordination of times versus 50 years ago, what would you say the plus or minus margin of error is when you have a guy that's, okay, 50 years
guy
ago.
Guy has to set his clock.
Okay, he has to wind his clock.
Yeah.
He then has to then compare it to another clock. And how was that done? 50 years ago would be
someone else set that.
1975. So how were they setting clocks? You watch the news. The news would say it's a certain time.
We used to have a phone number.
A phone number.
I had to call time.
So I would say plus or minus like 1%. There were some off times, but if somebody wrote in a book, you'd have to trust that they were pretty good about coordinating the time.
Yeah.
Go back 100 years. Okay. How did they set their time?
I don't even know.
Train schedules, right?
Okay.
The trains ran, and the train would then update the different platforms as it went down the track, because you needed to have arrival times for people to actually load the train. And there was no good way to coordinate what time it was, because there was no mass communication, there was no internet, so they weren't doing sundials or anything like that.
Yeah.
They were using anybody who was traveling in a different direction to update what time it was in any other part. So you could have, if you had 15 minutes of inaccuracy between the different places that the train stopped, that was actually pretty good. So you could say that plus or minus was half hour. You'd be impressed if they got within an hour of California and New York being set at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or radio transmissions or anything that have the ability to traverse different large scales of area, a large masses of area, and have fairly accurate time.
Mm-hmm.
So far we have a deviation of about an hour of trust in 100 years time. Go back 200 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're in the late 18 or early 1800s. Now, if somebody said something happening at 5:02, how confident would you be that their 5:02 and your 5:02 were the same?
Not very.
Okay. Go back 1,000 years. Okay.
I don't even think they know what 5:02 is.
Okay, so 5:02 isn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are they getting their time? How are they coordinating time? Is New York and California even close to one another? So you can see the division of time gets fairly inaccurate over 200 years ago. Now you have no trust that you know when something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Take that on a scale of 10,000 years, 100,000 years, and 1,000,000 years. Now, how far? If we can come within 1,000 years, are you impressed?
Yeah.
Okay, so something happened and there was a 10,000 year differential between when somebody said something happened and what it is. You can see how it goes back.
Yeah.
Now, Einstein was my guy here, that he basically gave me this next pearl of wisdom. Okay, so his favorite example was relativity. And relativity just isn't in physics, but it is sort of like giving you this mental exercise of being able to compare different things. Like if you were on a train traveling at the speed of light and you look over and there's light traveling with you, what do you see? Versus if you're standing still and light is passing by you. It's a different experience. If you're traveling the same speed as something, you're in a parking lot and you're not moving and the car next to you moves, do you feel like you're moving? So basically you're taking things that you are relative to, your relationship with another thing. So when you're talking about relativity in time, now, if the universe is expanding and time is speeding up or slowing down, depending on what part of the disagreement you're on, when you're taking 10,000 years, how do you know that time stayed standard and it didn't speed up or slow down over a 10,000 year cycle? In a 100-year lifetime, you wouldn't know the changing of time and whether or not speeding up and slowing down until you read in the Bible that someone was 700 years old and you're like, hold up.
You're like, that's not true. That's not possible.
They were my 700 years or your 700 years. How are you gauging it? How are you coordinating that time with other people? I doubt by my standards, you were 700 years old.
Yeah. So that's another point that me and this person said. They're like, oh, well, people can't be 485 years old. I'm like, can't they?
What is a year?
Yeah.
To you, if you ask you what is a year, it's when your iPhone tells you a year has gone by.
Yeah.
But in 19 AD,
Yeah.
What was a year?
What was a year?
It counting suns? Really? What was your method of calculating and keeping track of them? Were you ahead? Were you behind?
If I know how many days are in a year, how many hours are in a day, how many minutes are in a day, that may not be their same minutes in a day.
So not only can we say time may have changed over a long period of time, right? But your measuring of that time may have changed over that same period of time. And there might not have been agreement between you saying you're 700 years old when you were counting every time you saw a lightning bug in the field was another year, right? Versus me, that I was taking the atomic degradation of carbon-14, right? And calculating it that way. We would have a skewed judgment. So anyway, that whole diatribe was my argument against Grok about environmentalism. Hey, in a course of the last 100 years, and this is just a logical exercise, how do you think, because there is consensus that the Earth has been warming over the last 100 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, how do we measure temperature?
With a thermometer.
Okay, digital, right? Digitally. So we got super accurate instrumentation that tells us how hot it is right now.
Uh-huh.
And when you do the world, how many different data points around the world, and where are they? Like, if you were to guess how many different buoys in the middle of the ocean and weather stations in the middle of Europe, how many of them do you think there are right now?
Oh,
Thousands, 10,000. There's a lot of samples of weather or temperature that you can get information from. And there are computers that are tracking pushing that information into a data table so that you're like every 10 minutes it takes a reading and it'll tell you what the temperature is over a period of time and we can average it. Go back 10 years. Okay. Are you fairly certain that the method of instrumentation are equal to today's instrumentation? The same kind of electronics, the same kind of databases, the same amount of weather stations, the same methodology is used today.
10 years?
Yeah.
It's probably close.
50 years?
Slightly less close.
Okay. We'll use 100 years. That seems to be the best part of my argument with Grok.
Yeah.
So 100 years ago,
totally different.
This would have been in 1925. Okay. Digital thermometers?
No.
Okay. No digital thermometers.
Yeah.
Do you think as many weather stations?
No.
Do you think the metrics of measurement or the methods of measurement were the same?
No.
Okay. How were they different? Like if I were, okay, so I'm a captain on a boat and I traverse the seas and they're like, dude, I want you to go out to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And when you pull up to this buoy, I want you to have somebody jump out onto the buoy and I'm going to grab the temperature reading in the middle of the Atlantic. The dude would jump down with his little ink pen and he would jump down and look at the thermometer. It kind of looks 93. Might be it's 86, but I might be drunk and might be drunk. 54. So I wrote something down. So you have a different instrumentation. You have instead of every 10 minutes that we have today, that you have like once a month. I mean, does that captain stop by there every month and take a reading? And then how accurate the readings were. How do we establish the accuracy of the readings from a ship captain in the middle of the Atlantic? So really, if you're looking at like data, could you say 100-year-old temperature reading data is anything in comparison to today's temperature readings at all?
I can't imagine. It would be
It couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's possible, but it's.
But what you could do is you could then today disregard all of the innovations in measurement and just do it the same way that we did in 1925. And now you would actually have comparative data because we were measuring it the same way that we did, right?
Yeah.
But if you were to take a graph on the global temperature and it's rising, could you make the argument that if we have a 2-degree differential between 1925 measurements and 2025 measurements, and let's just say I sold thermometers, digital thermometers, and long ago mercury thermometers, and I said we've become 2 degrees more accurate in our instruments over the last 100 years because we went from mercury that could be misinterpreted to a digital readout, and we've become 2 degrees. Those same charts could be the improved effectiveness of temperature taking instrumentation rather than the earth got hotter.
Yeah, it's either 2 degrees of human error or inaccuracy rather than temperature change.
So then science has to say, if you could replicate it where you could take a sample size of 100 drunk captains on ships, read this thermometer, and I want to track how accurate the person reading it is, writing it in a notebook, or, oh shit, dude, we were supposed to stop at that buoy. Just make something up. Okay, right? Show me how science was perfectly accurate in 1925, as accurate as 2025. And now you'll listen. All it would take is environmentalists to say that we're taking best guesses. And if we're wrong, that's cool. If the trajectory is right, we should be able to replicate it over these 25 years. We should make fairly good predictions on what's actually going to happen. And then let's predicate things on things we know, not best guesses. Because if you best guess, if somebody made a decision that made you lose your house, your kids, your job, whatever, based on a best guess, how accurate do you think with those people you'd want those people to be?
I want them to be extremely.
100. They're willing, right, to throw you out, right, based on their best guess because they're egotistical and presumptuous that they know better than you do. And you're the one saying, no, dude, I just want you to be freaking sure. And I don't trust your 1925 data. I don't care all the modeling that you get. You are more sure than you should be about your data.
That makes me think of, you ever go to a doctor's office, especially during COVID, back when you had to have your temperature taken to go in any public space. It was such a joke when they would take this little thing and get about 2 feet from you, if that. And okay, you're good, go. I'd be like, there's no way you just took my temperature, but whatever. You know, they'd say, oh, yep, we got this. They would do something from far away. And I would just be like, I really distrust your accuracy. And clearly you don't care. So what are we even doing here?
Yeah. COVID's a great example about how willing they are to put you in harm's way for the sake of what they think they know. And that's why they've eroded the trust in institutions that are supposed to have your interest. They're great. The interests were great. They were noble. I get it. The premise of their ability to give you good data is where they failed most. So if they operated and said, hey, listen, we're not really good at this whole data thing. We got this close connection to pharma. They're going to really tell me that I really want you to take a shot because, you know, I get paid and it's really good if that happens. But here's just the data. You make your own decision. Would you have had not a lot more respect for people who just want you to make an informed decisions versus saying, don't think about this too hard, right? We don't have it all together, but we don't want you to know that because we want you to freak out and panic. Just do what we say, right? People who have something to lose when they're wrong is the only people that we trust. So if you take the vaccine and you die, what happens? Oh, what happens is you can't sue anybody because they have immunity towards lawsuit. So where do you get made whole? So you trust me, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to deny that I said the shit anyway, right? So don't.
Yeah.
And you can't sue anybody. You can't be made whole. You're just dead, and you are a consequence that I'm willing to serve.
Yeah.
Can't trust that.
Can't trust that. It is so funny. There's a bank by our house that still has the 6 feet apart markers on the floor. And I said, I hope we keep that. Because I want like my kids and their kids and future generations to say one day, what are these markings on the floor? Well, back during this pandemic, we thought that standing here, here, and here protected you from anyone's germs. And they're gonna be like, what?
You know who they should have checked with? People like me.
Yeah.
I hate when people cough in public. I hate when they sneeze in public. I hate being near people. I don't like getting sick at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when I'm around other people, I do certain things. Like I'm walking down a supermarket aisle. Somebody sneezes. in my brain, I picture this big cloud, right, of aerosol, germs and bacteria floating in the air. I hold my breath for 45 seconds.
Oh God, not that long.
Till I walk through and get to a space where I think it's dissipated enough that even if I catch a couple of ones, my immune system can keep up. That's what I pictured every time. And if that was the CDC's recommendation to hold your breath, that would have been better than masks.
I do that too. If someone starts coughing, I'll hold my breath for as long as I can. It's not very long because I was caught off guard. And then I will exhale really hard as though I'm like pushing everything away from my face. And then I'll try to breathe again.
Yes.
If I can't cover my face, I'll hold my breath when people are
so
coughing.
Let's just say your cousin Bill's traveling from Uganda and he shows up at your house and he was like, Kelin, I think I might have smallpox. I want you to treat me however you feel comfortable being close enough to me or not. What guidelines would you set up for your friend from Uganda when you think they might have smallpox? What preparations would you make with that threat?
You'd be staying somewhere else.
Okay, so you wouldn't be anywhere near you.
Not in my house.
Okay,
no.
Now you were forced into a recital hall and you had to feel safe enough being away from, what did I call him, Bill?
I think so, yeah.
Right, Bill.
Bill.
How close, when you start getting uncomfortable, that you're close enough to Bill to pick up smallpox? Now you have to be in the same room.
Is he symptomatic?
No, he just thinks he knew a brother of his, and he might have had smallpox, and he might, I don't know, might have it too.
I might sit across the room, maybe.
Across the room. You would be as far away from that person as possible.
Yeah. Probably.
Now, if they were symptomatic, you would be nowhere in the room.
Yeah, probably, I wouldn't go.
Okay. All right, just curious.
Why? What would you be? Would you go?
No, I would be nowhere near a recital
Even
hall.
if there was just a possibility, he would.
Yeah, if smallpox was anywhere, like I wouldn't be nowhere. I would recuse myself from smallpox people and not be around anyone. But that's my preference anyway. But if I was forced into a room where I was in a room and someone might have smallpox, I would take all of my, first of all, it would have to be pretty important for me to risk my health.
Yeah.
To do something.
What if you were already there and then you said, I think someone might have smallpox here and you can't go, you're already there?
I'd take a vaccine and submit myself to the government. Krista says, I'm pretty sure. Wait, I just want to know that.
Oh, yeah.
Dan says, well, this was also known back in BC that there were 28 days a month and 13 months in a year, as shown on the turtle's back. They based everything off of the moon cycles and other cycles. I saw someone mention the 13-month year because it pisses me. Every month pisses me off. Pisses me off.
Every month?
Almost every month.
Okay.
The names of the month actually refer to where it's supposed to be situated. Okay.
It being.
Okay. So what, if you were to write October, what's the numerical representation of October?
8 something.
What is it in actuality?
10.
Okay. Pisses me off, right? December. What numerical representation is Deci?
10.
10. And what is actually?
12.
Okay.
I never realized that. Well, October, but I never realized they were all that way.
All of them piss me off because they're disjoined from.
What's Jan and Feb?
I believe they were God's names.
I would say those I could see, but I've never heard Jan, Feb, March.
The Roman god Janus, as you can see in print, blah, blah, blah. That's January.
Okay.
But they start making sense towards, I'm not going to say making sense because they're terrible. They don't make sense.
But they go to a
February
numeric.
is the Roman purification festival called Februa. March is named after Mars.
Roman god of war.
April is named after blooming flowers and budding trees.
April is openings. Okay.
May is the Roman goddess Maya. June kicks off our modern day wedding season. The June after Juno or the Roman goddess. And then you get into July.
Well, what about
Julius?
This might be a dumb question. Yeah. I'm kind of asking it before I think it through.
Yeah.
But what about in parts of the world that the seasons are different? Like April, openings of flowers and blah, blah, blah.
We're under the Julian calendar. Okay, so this was not the same. By the way, if you look, they skipped days, they refactored it, they changed the number of months. They've done nothing but massage on calculating days, times, and whatever over the years. And so there was a different calendar before the Julian calendar. I forget what it was called. Anyway, there was a calendar at one point that equally divided our year cycle, sun's position of the earth, and it had equal amount of days in every month, and there were 13 of them. And that was much simpler. So was it 28 days times 13 is 365, right? And so they had to keep making alterations on time scale when our 365 did not equally divide because it kept getting off cycle.
Yeah.
So they would then recorrect things and change dates and whatever. So if you ever had your time machine and you set it for a specific date and your flux capacitor would go back in today's time increments back, you will arrive at a different day than the birth of Christ because the changes in the calendar over time.
So Doc and Marty McFly didn't even do it right.
They did not do it.
Oh my God, how unrealistic.
I don't think they went back far enough for that to matter, but if they would have went back, they went back to sort of like Cowboys and Indians times where that might have been okay. Calendar hasn't changed since then. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so when he went back to like the Under the Sea dance, more plausible.
More plausible.
Okay.
But if you went to go see the Roman Empire, you went back further, predating Jesus and all that kind of stuff, you'd be really far off.
Wow.
Yeah. It's all an illusion. But thank you, Dan, for that. Chris says, I'm pretty sure scientists include these reasons for marginal errors in their conclusion. Of course they do. Of course they
I would hope so.
Yeah, but talk to me about the science of incorporating margins of error in the different readings. Like if we were to do this in real science, right? And you had to estimate my margin of error for a drunk sea captain reading a thermometer.
Yeah.
How would you incorporate what margin of error that would be? And that's the same example that Grok gave me when I asked that, where science consensus has already determined the margin of error in manual readings of mercury thermometers versus today digital, whatever. I get that. And they use economic modeling. They use computer modeling to factor in ranges of margins of error. And you have to, don't pay attention to the science of incorporating that margin error. You have to basically convince me.
Blindly believe there's a legit margin of
literally there's no standard. So if you have different measuring devices, different people measuring those devices at different places on the globe in less locations, how do you factor in the margin of error when everything is different? You are guessing to a high margin of error probability. You would never in a million years predicate science on something with as high a margin as that, and a higher reliability as that. Over, especially when you're constituting thousands of years or hundreds of years of time.
I feel like we had a time. I'm sure we got a warning at some point.
The COVID measures were just a CYA for companies. And Dan said, if you erase or forget history tends to repeat itself. Keep the placements on the grounds.
Oh, the COVID placements 6 feet apart. Yeah.
September. Oh yeah, we've got like 45 seconds to wrap this up.
Yeah, we gotta go. We got to go.
Anyway, yeah, we gotta go. We only have 30 seconds. So say something totally impressive and have lasting impression on our audience. Deer in the headlights, that's what you're going with?
I keep thinking about Doc Brown and Marty McFly going back to the future.